few summers ago, I took a couple of weeks to go to what is essentially summer camp for grown-ups. It was in Sitka, Alaska, at the Sitka Fine Arts Camp. For nearly half a century, the camp has been providing summer programs in art, music, and drama for Alaska youth. Many of the students are from remote areas where their schools don't offer such options. A few years ago, the camp started offering a couple of sessions in the summer for adults. Sessions that year included writing, photography, marine biology, which included putting together a seal skeleton, and the one I took, listening in the woods. We were fortunate to have beautiful weather that summer, so much of the class was held outdoors, exploring different landscapes. At one of our classroom sessions, our instructor pointed out that we were all carrying around pretty sophisticated recording equipment in our pockets, our cell phones. So we were assigned the task of recording what we heard as we wandered or sat along the shore or in the forest all around us. There was a forest across the road. Beyond it, a salmon-filled stream poured into the bay. Toward the center of town was a boat harbor. We took a short drive to a muskeg swamp, and everywhere we listened. The natural world is often quiet, but never silent. The experience of sitting quietly, letting those sounds wash over us, was a remarkable experience. At the end of the week, we put together a tape of our efforts, the Sounds of Sitka. It included the soft rustle of the fir branches, the call of a raven, the sounds of footsteps along the boardwalk, distant chimes of bells from the Russian Orthodox Church in the center of town, the hush of water over rocks in the stream. I think total silence would be very distracting, but that workshop taught me the value of pausing, whether walking or working outside, and listening carefully to those quiet sounds that are always there, that tell me much is still right with the world if I only let it in. Recalling that rather magical workshop put me in mind of a poem that speaks of the wonders of quiet times. It's called When Lost in the Forest by David Wagner. When lost in the forest, stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. And you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost to you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you.
We find ourselves in the time of Advent. Now, some years I might have said, we have arrived at the time of Advent. And I don't know about you, but 2021, honestly, the last 21 months at least, have had a certain element of wibbly wobbly, timey-wiminess, to quote the good Doctor Who. And particularly after our nearly 2-week adventure of going to Arizona on a few hours' notice to take care for Deesa's parents after their father's stroke, I very much find myself in a time of Advent. Advent in the Christian tradition is a time of preparation for the celebration of the birth of Jesus. Counting down the weeks until Christmas, but not in a commercial type of way. Dr. Emily Smith, writing of both the pandemic and Advent, says that this will not last forever, but it is here now. The season of Advent is one of longing and hope, despair and waiting, confusion and joy, upside down kingdoms. Think, the angels appearing to the shepherds instead of the kings, and quiet pondering like Mary. And it seems to me that most of the winter holiday celebrations are about a quiet, hopeful expectation that the light of the winter solstice will return, that the oil in the lamps will last. I think that's why candles are such an important symbol, something ancient and real, something that burns slowly, something that practically begs us to snuggle in together and watch. Advent, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all invite us to light another candle each day or week until the wreath or kinara or menorah is ablaze with hopeful light. So much of this last 21 months has been waiting for return to normalcy. In March of 2020, we hoped that it would happen quickly, and then we realized that it would get a lot worse before it got better. We had a glimpse of returning to the old ways over this last summer when most of us adults were able to be vaccinated, and some of us cautiously emerged into the world, balancing risk assessment with science and our personal levels of comfort and our longing to reconnect with loved ones and strangers and not do our own dishes. And then variants arrived, and in states like Oregon that had avoided the worst of it before, Delta caused more COVID deaths in September than we had experienced in any previous month to date. The hopefulness of vaccine approvals for kids and a return to school without a huge uptick in cases was a positive sign, and then it's balanced out by the discovery of yet another variant, Omicron. Who knows what that means yet, and we remain watchful and hopeful and cautious, and we sit and wait. We are back to the new normal at church. We are running religious education with capacity limits. We have a multi-platform church happening every week, and you can decide if you'd like to come in person or if you'd like to watch on Zoom. It's not the same. We don't have coffee hour or second Sunday potlucks yet. But the leadership of the church are, just like every one of you, balancing the scales as best we can. And the research shows that masks and distancing are pretty safe and responsible ways to avoid transmission. Vaccination is the best way to avoid serious cases and deaths, but masks are really important in group situations. And so right now, we can't drink coffee and eat cookies together yet. Yes. But we can gather. We can teach our kids OWL and let them see their friends. We can meet in person and see each other laugh and cry and even cheer on occasion. What we do here matters. Who we are to each other matters. And yet we remain in a season of Advent, of quietly watching and waiting for joy. And so, my friends, what if our time of watching and waiting is not simply preparation for the joy? What if the joy is now? What if this quiet, holy season of preparation is, in fact, the payoff? Have you ever spent all day cooking a marvelous meal only to have it devoured in about 10 minutes, leaving a pile of dirty dishes? If Thanksgiving, for example, is only about the meal, it can feel like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. But when I spend the day cooking with my dad and my sister, or with my best friend, because we kind of do this thing where I have Thanksgiving with my friends on Thursday and my family does it on Friday, it works really well. Well, then Thanksgiving becomes a whole day of joy. Occasionally, that whole lots of preparation for a really brief payoff is kind of what Christmas can feel like. I remember my oldest daughter, Mika's second Christmas. At 6 months old, she wasn't really aware of anything, but at 18 months old, she got it. There was a pile of presents for her, not a crazy amount, nothing too expensive, but gifts befitting a first child and first grandchild's first aware Christmas. And she opened a book and she wanted us to read it to her, and we did, of course. And then we gave her another gift. And then she was still looking at that, and we tried to give her another one, and then we looked at each other and said, "What the heck are we doing?" She was happy looking at one thing and playing with it. Why were we handing her present after present? And so it took a week for her to open her Christmas presents that year. It worked much better that way. What if we enjoyed the waiting? What if we figured out what it is that gives us joy during the holiday season and planned for that? What if instead of doing everything and buying everything and seeing everything, we figured out what we most long for at this time of the year? In her beautiful sermon last week, Stephanie Skollick pointed out the difference between regular time and Kairos time. Those moments of transformation where just for a moment, everything ordinary feels miraculous and holy. The season of Advent is about preparing for Kairos time, about becoming ready for the miracle, not by shopping or decorating, but by quiet anticipation, opening ourselves to the possibility of joy. What does it take to open ourselves to the possibility of joy? I am not talking about a trip to Disneyland or even going on vacation, but instead, like Dolores said a few weeks ago, noticing what is already around you, what you already have with a spirit of gratitude. Noticing the moments of beauty and grace that are all around you every day. Now, we do live in the Pacific Northwest, and so during this time of year, we experience clouds a lot. But some nights we don't. And so on those nights, go find the moon. Figure out if you can see stars on any given night. Something about a glowing orb in the night is often a source of joy for me. A great sunset. A sunny day in the winter. A good walk. Birds at the feeder or on the tree. Or right now, as I write this, both my cats were sleeping on my feet. The tree branches out the back window were dancing in the wind. My cute dog was snoozing on the pillow on the end of the couch. The rest of the household was asleep at 8:45 on a Saturday morning, and soon I will drive to the bakery and get pastries for breakfast. There is so much joy right here in my cozy house with people and creatures I love all together under our roof. We bought a tree on Friday evening, and we will decorate it together tonight. There is such joy in the quiet, if only we're prepared to notice it. Grief and fear and sickness are real. Many of us have lost people or missed out on experiences over this last 21 months, and we grieve those losses. But as Dolores said in her gratitude sermon, if we miss someone that much, they must have been really important to us. Grief is a sign that someone or something mattered to you. And so sometime you might be able to get to joy at what that was. My theology, boiled down to 4 words, is grace, gratitude, awe, and wonder. When I manage to remember to live fully inhabiting that, joy is everywhere, easily accessible, even in the midst of sorrow or the quiet of Advent. Because if you let everyday moments take your breath away, joy finds its way in. In the words of our reading by Andrea Mason, we will sit quietly as the skies darken, waiting, filled with anticipation, dreaming a dream, hoping for a miracle. And just before the skies gain light, when we are at our most tired, when despair begins to crowd out the hope and the dream, there will be light again. And then all the waiting and all the hoping and all the dreaming will give way to joy. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.